Welcome to the Sci-Fi Diner podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Scott Herzog.
And good evening. I am Miles P. McLaughlin.
I'm Chrissy Ravensburger.
And I'm Dave Sellers.
And tonight, it's October. We are going to be reviewing something that blends both science fiction and horror together by looking at a movie called Event Horizon. And we're going to talk about that in our show tonight after we talk about what's going on in our sci-fi world. How are you guys doing tonight?
Awesome.
Good, good, good.
Pretty good.
You excited about October here?
I love the fall, so I do like October. It's a little bit warm right now for October, but that's okay.
Yes, it is a bit warm for October. Definitely.
I'll take
In our area, it's like in the 80s and 90s, which is unusual in Pennsylvania. So
Yeah, but I think we can normally we get this kind of weather like towards the end of September, and I think we just basically got skipped. So it was the delayed Indian summer.
yeah, it is. It is. It's I love fall too. As you guys know, I'm moving, so it's just one of those that my focus tends to be more there than it does at some of the fall stuff this year. But we'll get there.
Yeah.
I'll have a week to enjoy it after we move, maybe. So
Before we roll right into winter.
yeah, roll right into it. Just skip fall altogether. Actually, I went to our local, one of our local towns had a street fair, so I went to that. That was my fall.
I miss going up to
Pretty good
that one.
fall. The Ephrata one?
Yeah, I haven't been up to that one
Yeah.
in years. I enjoyed it when I
Yeah.
used to go when I was younger.
Yeah, so we went Saturday. It wasn't real full. It was like Saturday lunch and had a good time.
Nice.
Had a good time. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on in our science fiction universe. So who wants to start us out? Di-
I'll go.
All right, Miles.
So I watched Event Horizon for our look back. I'm enjoying Ahsoka on Disney Plus. I had a nerdgasm when I saw Thrawn. That was awesome.
Didn't we all?
Yeah, I think there's an Obi-Wan Kenobi line about millions of nerds' voices going out.
Cried out.
Cried out, but it was in joy. So, catching Carnival Row occasionally. That's a slow one for me. I'm caught up on Star Trek Lower Decks. I thought the profanity in this last one, I mean, granted, it was all bleeped out, but it just seemed like they used profanity like it was a comma in a sentence. It just seemed a little too much. And I know Lower Decks is, for the sense of humor it has and stuff, but I just thought it kind of went a little crazy. I mean, I'm not a prude or anything, but just like it just seemed like they overdid it with the profanity. I'm reading Second Chance, an alternative history of the American Revolution, and by Michael Roberts. There's 4 more books in that series. I'm enjoying this one now, so I'll definitely, after this one's done, I'll read the next one. I'm hooked, so they got a customer in me.
Tell me about that a little bit, Miles. What's the premise of that being an alternate history?
So the premise is England won the Revolutionary War, and so England is basically the world power. The only competitors would be China and Soviet Union in this universe. Now somehow these people have found a spaceship/time machine, and they get the idea to they don't like England. If you're not an English citizen, you're almost a second class citizen, and English troops get away with stuff. The protagonists had a situation where his wife ends up murdered and raped by a British soldier, so he obviously has bad feelings towards the Brits, and so he volunteers to go back in time to try to turn the tide and turn the course towards the colonists' favor. He's a military trained guy himself, police officer, so he has military skills. He brings some present day tech with him as far as weapons, and so um, to give him an advantage over of the British soldiers. So that's kind of what that's kind of what they're exploring. I'm not going to give too many spoilers away, but he saves George Washington's life and part of the book, and so he kind of that's how he sort of finds his
What?
way in.
That's pretty cool. I know they had a video game out years ago for, God, it was on the Xbox 360 or something, where it was kind of the same premise, but you were going back in time during the American Civil War, and
Oh,
you were going in with a modern weapon and trying to turn the tide in a few battles. It was really neat. It was a neat game. I like the premise of it. I'd love to see more stuff like
I'll have
that.
to see. They sometimes put video games like on YouTube. They'll
Yeah.
just put the the story part of it, not necessarily the game plan part of it. Up
You mean the
mid,
story
mid
cinematics?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So
Yeah.
you'll have to find out the name of it. I'll have to see if the cinematics are on YouTube.
I'll have to figure that out because
Yeah.
that'd be pretty neat again.
So that's what's been going on in my sci-fi world.
Awesome. Very good. Chrissy, how about you? What's going on in your science fiction universe?
Well, other than Event Horizon, I have been reviewing my German. So what I've been doing with my nerd world was I went through all of the Brothers Grimm fairy tales in German, and they're unhinged at some of
They
them.
are.
One of my favorite ones is like this gardener. So you have two brothers, one's rich, one poor. He decides the poor one goes off and becomes a gardener, and he like grows this giant turnip, and he's like, I don't know what to do with this giant turnip. I shall give it to the king. And the king's like, oh my gosh, I love this giant turnip. This is the best thing ever. Here's all these riches. And then like his rich brother gets jealous because the king gave him all this money for a giant turnip. So then he gives the king a really awesome horse. And the king's like, oh my gosh, I love this horse so much. There's no way I could possibly match this horse except for with this giant turnip. And so it's like ridiculous. And then so the brother ends up with this giant turnip, and he's like really ticked off because he wanted the money, not a giant turnip. So what else is he to do but try to murder his brother? And so he hires all these murderers to go out with his brother, and so he tricks them out into going into the woods. And then like while these people are trying to kill him, they hear a horse coming, so then they flee. And they but before they flee, they stuff him in a bag and put him up in a tree. And then he manages to wiggle his head out, and he's like, Guten Morgen, Guten Morgen. And the person who's on the horse is like, what's this voice? And he's like, oh my gosh, I've been up in this sack forever, and it's a magic sack that makes me have all the knowledge of the world. And the guy's like, oh my gosh, I'm a student. I really want all the knowledge of the world. Can I get into the sack too? And he's like, I don't know. I just don't know if that's going to work. So eventually the student convinces the guy to take him down, and then he gets out of the sack and stuffs the student in the sack and hauls him back over the tree, and then it just ends.
Fair enough.
There's no plot. And you're just left with what did I just read? Did I translate this correctly? And you're flipping back through the pages, and you're like, nope. It's just a random thing that happened. So, which is why it's my favorite, because it's absolutely unhinged. Where there's just a random giant turnip, and it has zero resolution and just breaks all the rules of modern story writing, and I just love it.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want just enjoyable, just unhinged nonsense, just go read some fairy tales. You'll be like, what is this?
Well, we'll be getting into that. We read a few Grimm in our World Lit class, so maybe I'll have to bring that one in.
Yes. I also like the one where there's a sausage rolling around in vegetables to flavor it. You're like, why?
Dave's like, there's a whole nother interpretation to that story that we aren't getting into.
Who no?
It was a bird, a sausage, and a mouse that all lived together.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
It's anthropomorphic straw, and you're like, what? I seriously, there was times I was like trying to read it, but like I don't think that I'm reading this correctly. That's not what it says. And then I translate. I'm like, nope, nope, that is exactly what it says. So I'll be cat. I love when Miles brings the cat on because then I just get distracted and all I think is cat. So yeah, that's what I'm currently doing with my sci-fi world is reading things in German to just get back into that language.
Right. Very good. Dave, what's going on in your science fiction path?
Oh, not all, not a whole heck of a lot. Caught up with Lower Decks, which I still love it. Ahsoka is still amazing, but leaving me wanting so much more every week, and it's going to be frustrating
As
when
Star Wars is wont to do.
and not in a bad way, but like in a I can't wait for next week's episode, and they're going to leave me on a real cliffhanger for like 2 years here till the next season comes, and it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt bad.
Isn't the movie next?
Well, see, this is the thing. I've been talking to a friend of mine who is far, far more knowledgeable about Star Wars than I am. I mean, to the point where I look at him sometimes and go, "Do you have a life, my friend? This is me talking. You know way too much."
He has a life. It's called
Star Wars. Exactly.
That's right.
He was telling me he's about 90% sure you're going to get the next season of Mandalorian coming, and then a second season of Ahsoka, and then the movie. Which I will be very happy if that's the way it pans out, because you can start to flush Thrawn out in Mando and Ahsoka more before the climactic end, and actually give that character of Thrawn the proper use, rather than just a one-off in a movie.
Right.
So
Well,
I'm
to be fair, I mean, to be fair, like at the end of the movie, Thrawn doesn't need to die.
No, he does not.
So, and there's 1,001 ways you can like capture him, and then he escapes. I mean, there's just
And if he dies, we can just clone him. It's fine.
right, and we can have outbound flight.
Or you can cut off his legs and you can just stick him on like mechanical legs. It's fine. Fall into lava, just walk it off.
Yeah.
It's Star Wars.
Yeah. So outside of those two things, the only other thing relevant in my sci-fi world is I found on an older Call of Duty game that there's a zombie mode that you can play solo instead of online with other people, and I have been playing Call of Duty Cold War Zombies for like the last 2 weeks every spare moment I have. I was almost late to get on this call because I was in the middle of a match when Scott said, "Hey, I'll be ready in 10 minutes." Crap! Hurry up and log off.
We could have held off.
Well, I moved my PlayStation up here with my computer because I realized my good desktop monitor has a second input, so I can plug that thing into there. So all of my gaming junk is in one room, in one spot. So it was convenient, but oh man, it's just addictive.
Yeah.
I love it.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, what are you supposed to do in October if not play zombie Call of Duty?
I know.
Oh, exactly. It
I
just
know.
fit. And there's supposed to be a
Does
new
fit.
zombie mode when Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 drops in November. And I've already got that pre-ordered, so I'm set.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So in my sci-fi world, obviously Ahsoka, as everyone, ecstatic when Thrawn showed up, ecstatic when Ezra Bridger shows up, and I love what they're doing with the Ezra character in the limited that we've been able to see him in action, and yeah, so it's been interesting. Alongside of that, I have unfortunately gotten into TikTok because of my So Married and Mennonite YouTube channel that we have, and so we put content out on like all the video platforms, so Instagram, TikTok, um, and then Facebook, and then YouTube, obviously. But as a part of that, I get recommended these funny Star Wars independent shorts. That I was showing Dave some of them. They're absolutely inept stormtroopers, kind of a father and son relationship that are stormtroopers, and they're hilarious. And this is the right, Dave. I'll, I'll try to throw a link sometime in the chat because I'm sure they have it on YouTube too. I just encountered them on TikTok, and they're just I've been watching them and finding great joy in the fan universe of like fan films. Miles, when you and I first started, like one of our earliest episodes, we reviewed fan films, Star Wars fan films, and then we did Star Trek fan films. In the 13, 14 years since then, like what people can do with their own budget and own thing, like the standard for me in Star Wars was watching the Star Wars Cops episode, which is absolutely hilarious if you've never seen it. It's fantastic, but not a lot of green screen in that. A little bit maybe, but now they just look so much more authentic with what they can do. And so, anyways, that's been a part of what's been going on in my sci-fi world. Obviously, Event Horizon, and still reading the Dresden Files and enjoying that. Oh, and I'm of course watching Rebels because I'm finishing. I'm pushing myself through because I've never finished a series, and I just got to the episode where they revealed Maul is still alive. Yep. Yeah, Maul is alive. And not with his mechanical legs, or doesn't seem not the spider legs that you saw him in some in Clone Wars. But so yeah, so we're at the Sith Temple,
I'm just
and
gonna be over here.
yeah, that's all right.
Have you watched it this far yet?
She has not watched. She has not watched Rebels.
No, have you seen it to this point before?
No, I've
this
seen
is
the
first
entire
time.
thing. It just made me twitch.
Okay.
Okay, because you're getting to they
Okay.
got to the Sith Temple.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Hence,
Yeah,
hence
so,
my
like,
comments about people just not dying. It's fine. It's Star Wars.
Yeah. So, and I love how he says,
Death
"I used to be." But now people call me Maul. Just that without the Darth in front of it. So, and I love how the Inquisitors are hunting him, which puts him in a weird sort of alliance with Kanan and Ahsoka, in a bizarre twist. So I haven't watched how that all plays out, but
It's
I'm
it's
I'm
good.
excited about it. Yeah. So there's a video that I use in my classroom on the tragic hero, where they chart Anakin's fall, fitting the traditional Sophoclean hero. And there's footage from Rebels, with Ahsoka speaking, that I encountered. I'm like, I recognize this line because of the way he's talking about Anakin. Anyways, so yeah, so this has been kind of what's going on in my science fiction world, and yeah, thoroughly enjoying it.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, hers. All right, so let's leap in. We're talking Event Horizon. It's October. We needed something horror-esque. Do we want to talk about our first encounters with this film? Did any of you see this in theaters?
No.
No. Well, did anyone watching it now, was this their first time watching it?
Yes.
How many of
Yes.
you- That was Dave. Did you see it before?
Oh yeah, many times.
Yes. So the story that I have to tell you, my first encounter with it, I was working at Solanco High School, and there was a Blockbuster video I think it was Blockbuster in Kendrick Square.
Yep. Oh no, that was A to Z.
A to Z, you're right. A to Z video. And I rented this video from Event Horizon. I'm like, oh, look, a science fiction film. And I'm about black space travel, black hole. What's not to love, right? What's not to love, right? And
A lot
so
of things,
I
apparently.
get the VHS. I pop it into my VHS player, And mind you, it was daylight when I was watching it. And literally I get into the movie and I'm about a half an hour in, and suddenly I realize I'm fast forwarding through, I don't know, maybe 50% of the movie afterwards because I just couldn't, because it just freaked me out so bad. Freaked me out so bad. And so that was my first encounter, and I swore I would never revisit it again.
I'm glad we got past that.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. We're helping you conquer your fears. This is all. It's very
No, I'm not
therapeutic.
certain that you are. I'm not certain you are, but
Listen, exposure therapy is good. It's fine.
yeah.
So you're saying, Scott, you're still not desensitized?
I'm still traumatized by it.
Oh, okay.
It freaks me out just a little bit. Freaks me out a little bit. But,
You know,
exposure therapy only works so far. There are some things I've been exposed to that I wish I hadn't been.
We'll leave that one alone.
well, I
Don't
mean,
poke the bear. Don't poke the bear.
usually you also have, people there to help you like practice calming techniques and all that other stuff and grounding and, help you get through the panic and things. So I'm not actually saying, go scare your friends and call it exposure therapy. Don't actually do that.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Anyways, Dave, when did you first encounter this movie?
Oh gosh, see, this came out in '97. I must have seen it probably once it was out on video. Might have been like 2001, 2002.
Okay.
Shortly after I was probably like 17, 18 years old when I saw it.
Okay.
And I forget if I saw it on like HBO or something like that back in the day when that was a premium television channel.
Right.
And I scheduled it out there. But that was the first time I saw it. And again, like you, I'm like, oh, cool. Science fiction movie, Lawrence Fishburne. Nice. All right.
Sam Neill.
I'm like, all right, I know these guys. This will be good. Oh, it was good. It was great. Loved it. Especially when the dudes, they're watching like the video log of the ship, and the dude's standing there with his eyeballs in his hands, just in Latin or whatever the hell. I'm like, oh god, this is freaky. This is awesome. Of course, that was when I was getting into a brief horror movie phase in my my life. So I was like, this is good. And then I maybe watched it a few times randomly when I've seen it or been on, and like, oh yeah, I want to watch that one again. and put it on while I was doing something else. But yeah, this is the first time I've actually watched it through again and really paid a little more attention in a while.
You mentioned one of the things about this movie that I think was such a big draw is it has a pretty solid cast.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you have Fishburne. This is like pre-Matrix. Like, I think maybe like a year or two after this, The Matrix comes out. Like 97, 99, I think the first Matrix came out.
Yeah, The Matrix came out in 1999.
Yeah, so like he's like right before this. He's coming to his own. You have Sam Neill, of course, known for Jurassic Park and many other movies, but prior to that,
it does have a very solid cast, and the acting was really good. Like, it's not a
Jason
movie.
Jason Isaacs is phenomenal. He's been in tons of stuff.
Yeah, I love his character in this. And he did good. Too bad he got flayed like he did.
Sean Pertwee. Last thing I remember seeing him in, he played Alfred in the Gotham TV series. His father, his father, I think, played the first Doctor Who. His father played one of the Doctor Who's, so he comes from a pedigree there, and he's been in tons of stuff himself.
Well, and that was like when Richard Jones started talking, Cooper. I'm like, I know, I didn't recognize his face right away, but I recognized the voice. And then I'm like, oh, he's the sergeant in the show The Rookie. and I put that together. If you ever watch The Rookie, it's a cop show with Nathan Fillion. It's amazing. I love the show. We're like,
Right.
he's the sergeant in there. And it's like, oh my god, the guy's gotten old and put a ton of weight on in between. That's why I didn't recognize him. But
Haven't we all?
oh yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Some more than others.
and then but yeah, I was happy that that he was in there, and I realized who it was. I was like, oh, terrific. It's like I love this cast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's where the cast comes in. So let's talk about the movie itself. What did you like? What didn't you like? I mean, wait, let's talk about it. It's obviously it comes off as a bit scary. How did the scares like hold up after, I don't know, 20 some years, 25 years almost?
I think it still holds up fairly well because it is more of a psychological phenomenon that you're experiencing, and I think that the idea that you can be like that you can still be driven to do some pretty crazy things to yourself. So I felt like that still held up. I felt like the special effects that went along with said psychological phenomenon hold up. So, and I'm not sure about the science fiction behind it, but I seem to remember seeing something even recently about, in a science fiction book about how you could theoretically create some sort of wormhole thing, and contain it with magnetic fields. So, although I do love how ambitious they felt we would be colonizing the moon by 2015.
Yeah, the dates. I laughed when I saw the dates come across. I'm like, oh yeah, we're not near this. So
I just love old science fiction. They had such high hopes for us.
yes,
They did.
we
They
did.
really did. The distant year
Yes, yes.
2047, and now we're like, listen, we're still not even sure if we can get ourselves to Mars, let alone going up to Neptune.
Right, right.
But yeah, I thought that was, I felt that the science behind it seemed to do pretty well. So I felt like most of it seems to hold up, other than the dates. But
Yeah. I thought some of the, I mean, this is a traditional horror movie, there, this military vessel, search and rescue vessel, going out to explore the event horizon, right? Along with Sam Neill's character, right? And so they latch onto a non-load bearing strut, right? And I'm like, okay, you would think they would listen to someone that was involved with maybe the building of it or who know this. I mean, so you would think that. And then the other thing that bothered me, this is earlier on in the film, is they walk into Event Horizon and there's this liquid kind of floating around and they're just batting it away. And I'm like, you don't know what happened on this ship. Wouldn't you go in with just a little bit more caution and care? But then, of course, we wouldn't have the movie. So
that is, I did kind of wonder about that. I was like, because he said something about it being like fluid or something, like
Right.
coolant, and he just bats it away. So it's possible, we don't know, it's possible that they've done these sorts of missions before, and so they're used to seeing this kind of stuff. Like, if you see something day in and day out, you can kind of start to become a little bit lax about what you're doing. But you would think that an elite search and rescue team would know and have it drilled into them. You don't become lax just because, you've done this 100 times before. So, but as you said, probably wouldn't have a movie,
right.
So
Yeah,
So,
go ahead, Miles.
so I was trying to see what. I mean, I was trying to observe the sci-fi element, but I was also trying to observe what aspect of humanity to explore and maybe mess around with. And what I got from is that what they really did with the characters, especially the Sam Neill character, is um, regret and guilt for just for something that happened to them, and whatever evil force is on this ship. That's what I mean. It was, they used that to mess with the characters and try to use that to subdue them or destroy them and stuff.
It did the same with Lawrence Fishburne too, and his regret with having to leave that one of his men behind on another mission to die came back to continually haunt him. And the same with, I guess, what's her name? Kathleen Quinlan. I guess that might be her character's her son or something that she must have had to abandon or died or something along the way there.
Well, she was supposed to see him, but then they got, everybody's
right.
pissed off because they're supposed to be on leave, and then they have to go on a mission. But a mission takes over 2 months to get from point A to point B, because they have to, go into stasis for that long or else, that for long trips in space, which I thought was interesting. I thought that if we ever could come up with something like that, I mean, that would be pretty cool. But
well, yeah, because the gravitational forces at which you have to travel are so powerful. I guess it would liquefy your bones, I think is what they said.
Yeah, the speed you have to go, and that's not even.
I would say not even light speed.
Yeah,
but I think it's also it would save on resources also, and on life support. If you're in stasis, you don't need to run air in the ship. You don't have to pack as much food or whatever. So it's makes perfect sense. Not to and alleviate boredom. I mean, that would just be a long ass flight for 2 months.
Well, it felt very classic. Getting back to your thing about the human message, it felt very classic, like hubris of science, all about could have, not about should have, and the unintended consequences of just plowing ahead with scientific discovery without full understanding of what you're getting into, or what the because he was like, well, I folded space in half, and they're like, you even know where you folded it from too, so, and his hubris continues at the beginning of the movie, because strange things are happening and he keeps coming up with scientific reasons as to why it would be happening, completely dismissing the experiences of the crew as having some semblance of truth to them, which is another thing that you can often see with experts, of dismissing the people who have to live in an experience as not being in the know or not expert enough, which is interesting because I come from a field that is the client is the expert in their own experience. So that's a very different mindset than I have when I'm approaching people.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So it's also interesting that he's the one who then becomes like the vessel of the darkness evil thing. So it's a little heavy-handed with the metaphor then of his own hubris is the vessel of which the destruction is wrought.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's a metaphor with him gouging his own eyes out. Is he blind to what you were just saying, Chrissy?
I mean, it's possible. So there's
just totally
a lot
possessed by a demon.
Yeah, I'm like, is it a demon? Is it just an entity? Like, what is this? It kind of the movie also reminded me of a combination of like the Reavers from Firefly and then like
Oh,
the
yes.
underneath from Stranger Things. And I kind of wonder if like some if some of that, if this wasn't an inspiration for some of that.
Yeah, could very well be. I know I want to see the original cut of this movie.
Oh, the 130-minute one?
Yeah. Now,
The Gore Fest.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, this comes from me. Like, I some of my first forays into the horror genre were like the Hellraiser movies. So, I'd be very interested to see just exactly what they defined as a gore fest like this in '97, especially compared to like
From what I
today's
understand,
standards.
from what I understand, we probably will not get a director's cut of this. I heard the rest of the footage is a bit of a gore fest, and even the studio was disgusted by what they did. So
Nice.
I
It's pretty bad when the studio is disgusted. Like, I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, yeah. That's got to be pretty brutal.
so from what I read, it shocked a lot of viewers when they first was showing it for like target audiences, and before they released it, it was they had to do some editing to kind of tone down the gore and violence.
Wow.
Mhm.
Wow.
Look at his face. He so wants it. It's like it would be like
You want-
great for him.
I want to watch it.
Bring it
so
on.
much. I want it so much. Yeah.
Right.
It's that
Yeah.
twisted part of my brain.
So I posted an article in our show notes from Collider. Dave, if you want to read why we probably will not get a
Yeah.
director's cut.
Yeah. That's interesting. That is interesting. And at this point, I mean,
You would think that a full version does exist, and that in this day and age, it'll be leaked in some way.
well,
But
it depends on the medium that they recorded it on. I mean, this is pre-digital age stuff, so I mean, you're still on film and everything. I mean,
It's very true.
and that stuff's not made to last that awful long. So I mean, even if it was out there, it would require a digital transformation, probably a lot of restoration, and even another form of editing, because God knows what, I mean, if it was even, did he fully, oh yeah, his initial cut. Okay, so it was finished, and then they had to cut more out. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it like I don't tend to like gore fests. Like, so some of this was a little bit like gory for me, just because I'm like, okay, did we really need to show that? But okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but the entire premise of the whole thing, I really liked, and I would love to see like a modern. Doesn't have to be quite as gory, but like a modern version or a modern take on a movie like this. That could be really interesting.
Yeah, I really did like the premise of it. I liked the execution of it. I thought it was interesting how, like, even before you actually got to the ship Event Horizon, like, he was having, strange dreams, strange, like, visions and hallucinations. So it kind of makes you wonder, like, when did the entity, like, really almost like reach out through the universe to, like, and how long has it been doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been nice to have
So
an expanded version or extended version that kind of incorporates a little bit more of that, because there were a lot of things that were just kind of glossed over that really could have added a little bit more depth into the story.
yeah. Although sometimes not having real full explanations makes things scarier.
Well, that's it. That's it.
I
So
mean,
they did something with Lawrence Fishburne's character, he sees his crewmate come out of the water on fire, and he sees it, and then they cut. They don't tell what happened after that. They just go to the next scene, and he says, "I just saw, my old crewman on fire." But he does, it's like, so there's I would think there's a lot more going on in that scene that we didn't see.
Right.
It just seemed very weird editing, so it must have been pretty disturbing after that what came after that. So I just noticed it seemed a weird way to stop that scene and then transition to the next scene.
Yeah. Like, I think you could do this movie as just a straight up science fiction movie without having to have the horror aspect and the gore and everything, and it would be really, really good.
Yeah. It would be.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
It is. I thought it was a good movie for being a horror science fiction.
So I did find a site talking about what material was deleted. Yeah, so the like some of it has apparently there was a 2006 DVD release that had some of the unfinished director cut on it.
Oh.
Like it wasn't finished. It wasn't the finished film that he showed, but the one Dr. Weir gets briefed in the ship's return is demanded to go on the mission to recover it. This scene was on the DVD release of the film in 2006. Captain Miller finds a human tooth with a gum attached to it in the corridor while exploring the ship. The bloody orgy scene that the main characters came across in the ship's log and learning the original crew's fate was longer than the original cut. The scene lasts 20 seconds in the theatrical version, but is infamous for the incredibly graphic violence it contained, including shots of a character being stabbed through the head and a man pulling his intestines out of his mouth. Yeah, so the initial version was longer and included shots of the character getting screws drilled into their teeth and a character having their legs broken so hard they're eventually broken off as he crawls away.
What? Wicked.
The final battle between Weir and Miller originally saw Miller fight with the burning Weir who haunted him. The backstory was the trauma Miller had from a crew member as he was forced to let him die a prior mission was present.
Yeah.
What else?
What I find interesting right now is my reaction and Miles' reaction is like, "Oh no, I don't think I would want to see that." When Dave is like, "Oh yeah, give it to me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wicked.
So a couple others here. The vision of Miller's crew suffered in hell. Weir is forcing Miller to experience was more graphic. The cryosleep tank fills with blood and explodes, unleashing a wave of blood. Weir crawls down the ladder like a spider. Weir's wife Claire's suicide reenactment was more graphic. And the discovery of the DJ's corpse by Captain Miller was longer.
Wow.
There you apparently.
This is a nasty movie.
Yeah.
You can find the original script if you want to read it. Available online if you really are interested to see what they cut.
Interesting.
So I know that you're dying to do that, so I'm going to put the link in the show. So enjoy.
There you go.
Abe, I see a whole new side of you.
Hey, it's again. This was early on in that thing. It got to a point where there was about a good year or so where me and another guy, me and like two other good buddies of mine would go and we'd see every new horror movie that came out in theaters. And it got to the point where I was getting bored with it. Because while they all were different, they're all the same. Like, it got to the point where you can predict every single thing that was going to happen. And everything that you think, oh no, don't go into there. What are you doing? Oh, you got your throat cut. Well, that serves you, you dummy. You know?
So if we're ever in an actual horror film, we want to be with Dave because he'll tell us what not to do.
Don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. It's just. Yeah,
So we definitely need to get another girl in here because if I'm the only girl, I'm going to die. That's like I'll be one of the first people out. That is just the rule of horror films. Like the girl,
that's
girl
why
dies.
we bring Chrissy with us.
Oh,
Damn it,
Just
guys,
don't-
come on.
just don't wear a
Can we
red
find
shirt.
a different girl? Don't wear a red shirt.
we'll dress her up in red and it'll just be double whammy, right?
Hey, just
First
walk
one
over
to
there.
die.
Man, brutal. But then yeah, then you got
It's
the
always the girl being like, "Oh my gosh, I hear something."
just don't. Well, it'd be like your stormtrooper thing, Scott. You shot me. Listen, this is how it happened.
Yeah.
Just stick with the story, okay? Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So were you watching horror films around when the whole Saw franchise was working its way
Oh
through?
yeah, I own a bunch of the Saw movies. I think I've seen all but like the last 2 or 3 that came out because they just got boring to me. And the same with the Hostel movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think I have a couple of them I still own.
Did
But
you go to Field of Screams?
no, because that crap. See, I'm one for watching a movie, but going places like that causes me to get defensive and almost violent. For example, buddy of mine and I went a couple years back out over to York. They were doing some kind of zombie hunt thing where it was like a glorified, almost like laser tag, where you got these little toy guns or whatever that had little like laser tag things on it. And as you walk through this haunted building and stuff like that, you'd have people pop out as zombies, and you were there to shoot the zombies, basically. And that was fine until I almost took the butt of that rifle and almost knocked a poor kid out because he jumped out and scared the crap out of me, and I really wasn't expecting it. Like, he did a really good job at it. He did a good job at what he did, but he almost got knocked out for it. And that was the moment I'm like, okay, I cannot go to this kind of stuff because I don't like getting spooked like that right on, and it doesn't wind up well. But movies, I'll sit and watch it on the screen all the time. I don't care. It doesn't affect me.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I thought in watching this and that struck me is, you know how in like the recent like 10, 15 years, they began to mess around with like the opening studio logo credits where they like blend them into the film. And this is probably one of the earliest things I've ever seen of that sort of credit, you know, bringing the credit things into like where they kind of suck them into the black hole. You know, you don't really see that stuff too much. I can't recall like 80 movies doing that, like in the 90s. So this I thought was kind of creative for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even catch that or think about that because I've gotten so used to it. Yeah. Yeah, that era, you didn't have those kind of effects like that done.
No.
Yeah. Neat little effect. So what do you guys think? Anything else?
I found it interesting, Miles. You put some figures of what this movie cost and what it actually brought in. Is that correct?
According to Almighty Google,
Well, I mean, if it's on Google, it can't be wrong.
It looks like it
and
lost some money.
and the actually Box Office Mojo confirmed what it made in the U.S.
Right, because it did not make money.
No.
No.
You know, in fact, it
It
lost.
lost like 20 million out of that deal.
Yeah, yeah. But,
Wonder how much that
Niche
they got
audience.
back. Yeah. Wonder how much that was spent on all the added gore effects and everything like that they had to cut out.
right.
Well, there was a scene just a visual effects scene that cost them a lot of money. It was just one of the exterior shots. I think with the space station and Earth over in the Earth. That
Oh
it was
yeah.
a nice shot, but for like you said earlier, this was not the era of CGI, so that took a lot of money out of their budget to make that scene.
Yeah, 'cause that was probably all still like actual physical models.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really good scene. Like, I
Yeah.
remember being very impressed by the opening. Being like, oh, wow, this is impressive. I mean, for 19, I kept saying, like, wow, this is 1997. Like, it was just a really I mean, most of it held up pretty well for
Right.
1997. I mean,
I'd be interested to see how much the model of the Event Horizon ship itself cost to make, because there's a couple shots you got of the exterior that were pretty darn detailed and
Right.
pretty intricate.
Oh yeah, the shots of the ships were very very good. I mean, they look great.
yeah.
Wonder if I can get a model of that.
You probably
I'm
can
sure you
someplace.
can somewhere. So you want to hear about some continuity errors?
Sure.
So upon entering Event Horizon, Captain Miller comments on how the ship is in a deep freeze and how there's ice crystals everywhere. So why is this a problem when we enter the ship?
There's no ice crystals.
There's a water bottle floating around with liquid sloshing around inside
Huh.
of it.
Whoopsie. It thawed
Yeah.
out really fast, okay? They made the ship really hot and then they cooled it down. That's how it is.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would not have picked up on that.
Yeah. They have Lewis and Clark crew enter stasis on the way to Neptune, made necessary because of the 30 Gs of acceleration they will endure for the trip. When they arrive at Neptune, however, there are coffee cups and other debris on the tabletops, loose chairs, etc., in the same position as they were.
Huh.
Yeah, that's a continuity error.
Yeah. Some factual errors. It is said that Event Horizon is in a decaying orbit. However, it's obvious they are in the troposphere of Neptune, and therefore no longer in orbit and should be experiencing gravity that of Earth.
Yeah, I was wondering about them saying it was in orbit and then it was in Neptune. I was like,
Right.
well, maybe I'm misremembering.
Well,
what
because
they
it's
Yeah,
funny.
said.
Because when you first see the ship, it's in the gaseous clouds,
Right.
and then when they board it, it's out in space.
Right. Yeah.
Like, how in the world?
Here, Chrissy, this one's for
I
you.
mean, it floats up and down.
Right. This one's for you. This is so the Liberate Tetumete or whatever Tetumet is wrong in Latin. I'm also pronouncing it wrong. But Liberate is second person plural imperative. Tetumet is the emphatic second person singular pronoun. So they
I
did
mean,
not have
it
the
is
correct Latin.
possible. It's possible that the guy speaking Latin didn't know how to conjugate things correctly.
Nah, it's quite
We-
possible. I don't always get the
I'm-
conjugation right in Spanish, right?
I barely
I
get the
mean-
conjugation right in English.
Facts.
I usually get the conjugation correct in German, but don't ask me about der, die, das, den, dame, denen, des. Who knows? Spin a wheel, say an article, hope and pray.
Right.
Get a few guttural inflections in there, and you're fine.
I vote we just make everything D in German, but the Germans haven't gone for it. So,
Right.
yeah, I think I'd be a little bit pickier about the Latin if it was written down as someone, like, well, it's possible this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. After all, he was insane when he was talking. Insane people, I guess can't conjugate Latin. It's a rule.
Eh?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, what did you guys think of like the music and the atmosphere that was done through sound?
Like I said, I really was impressed by my first impressions of the movies with regards to the atmosphere and the music and just like the general settings. So I really liked that. I pretty much really liked the movie up until it really started getting gory.
Right.
And then I was like, I mean, it's not like I haven't sat through horror movies before with gore. I mean, I had an ex-boyfriend who made me sit through 2 Saw movies, and I'm like, why are we here watching this in the theater? Like, Dave. So yes, Dave, I will watch a horror movie with you if you really need someone to go to a horror movie with you, but
I'm over them.
it won't be my first choice.
Yeah. It's usually not mine either. But Yeah, I mean, they. I don't know. I think the whole. I mean, the music certainly matched the thematics really well. I
Yeah,
mean,
it created helped create the atmosphere of this
yeah,
movie. But,
full of suspense and yeah.
So I was watching a YouTube review of the movie, and I didn't pick up on it, but the guy was like saying even the inside of the event horizon almost kind of looked like a church in some ways. Just like the consoles are almost shaped, sort of had like an altar type feel. Um, the bulkheads kind of had like a look like um, pillars in a church, inside a church. So they were trying to go, I don't know, a spooky religious vibe.
Well, I guess that would fit with like the regrets and maybe sin and you know those kind of things you were talking about earlier. So and of course the as being downfall of man. So I mean, it's possible that there's a lot of like some religious connections we haven't made yet.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
So
Yeah.
because it also makes lots of like because I mean even the fact that they had him speaking in Latin seemed a little bit weird, like oddly
right.
religious. Because most of the time in modern day we use Latin kind of in two instances. One, you're talking about Roman history, um, or it's something to do with the Catholic Church.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, hell, open up another dimension. Did you open up a dimension to hell? Who knows? Um,
Yeah.
so I also thought where people don't want to spoil there at the very end. I just I guess skipped like 2-3 minutes. I thought it was interesting at the very end how like she still has like the horrific visions that kind of follow her when they're getting rescued, and then like
Right.
the doors close and you kind of get the impression that they may have brought hell with them.
Uh-huh. This ain't over.
Humans typically do.
Yeah, I mean, so
I
Yeah.
did like
So I guess go ahead.
I'd say I did like the floating captain's chair suspended from the ceiling on the Lewis and Clark on their first ship coming
Yes.
in. He just slowly spins the thing around.
Right.
That was pretty
yeah.
neat.
Well, even the two names of the ship, you have the Event Horizon. So, like, because when you hit an Event Horizon, it's too late. You're getting sucked down into the black hole. And then the Lewis and Clark being the exploration of that tipping point. And so it wasn't necessarily just the ship, it was going to the ship and then having to bring it back. That's the tipping point of hell for humanity, if we go with the end. My interpretation of the end.
That works for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, very good. Let's talk about looking at this movie in retrospect. How do we rate this movie? Let's do it out of 5 stars. When would we recommend it? What we think of it? Where are we at with this? And Miles, let's start with you.
I'm gonna go with a 2.75. I just don't do horror and gore. It's just not my thing. The first few minutes of the movie, the sci-fi aspect of it, exploring, it is um, faster than light travel, that kind of stuff I thought was interesting. Um, but then when it got into the more darker stuff and the graphics stuff, it kind of lost me. So yeah, this is not one I'll be going back to anytime soon.
Right. Chrissy, how about you?
well, I'm gonna rate it based on what it is. So for a horror movie, I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna take a page out of Miles' books and make it a decimal, but it's gonna be a very special decimal. It's gonna be 4159.
Of course. Of course.
Well, there was math involved. I mean, we
That's
can't
right.
just give it 3 stars. It's got to be pi.
Right.
So I'll give it pi stars. But no, I did feel that it was a solid horror movie. And a solid sci-fi movie. So if those are the things that you like, you should watch this movie. If those are things that you don't like, well, one, I'm not quite sure why you're on listening to a sci-fi podcast if you like science fiction. So
Yeah.
rethink your life. And two,
It's wit like that drives those viewers back.
That's right. That's right.
but if you don't like horror, then don't watch it.
Yeah.
Pass. No.
Dave, how about you? Where are you at with this?
I'm giving it a 4. I've watched this movie multiple times. I've loved it since the first time I saw it, and I mean, visually, as far as like the science fiction stuff, I mean, even from '97, it still holds up very, very well in my mind. It mixed enough horror and stuff in there to keep it really suspenseful. It's good. I mean, I go a long time between viewing, so it's not as repetitive as if it was like a Star Trek movie that I could quote line for line.
Right.
But yeah, I've always enjoyed this movie, and I still do now, even after watching it again. So I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah. So let's talk about my rating of this thing. I like the way Chrissy worded it. Like, so I look at it for what it is. And I think that I would rate this to be like a 4.5.
Nice.
Not because it is my cup of tea, because I'm with Miles. Like, I will never gravitate to this sort of movie. That being said, it effectively does what it sets out to do, and that is to scare you and to freak you out a little bit. I think,
And it holds up over 25 years later.
so this is the other reason I'm scoring this high, is that I feel like this movie hasn't. There are a few effects of data, but as a general rule, it holds up, and even the psychological horror of it kind of holds up and kind of freaks you out just with what they do with it. And I'm with Miles. Like, if I never see this movie again, I'm okay with that. But that doesn't make it a bad movie.
Right.
It just makes it a movie that, if I'm going to rate it on preference, then this movie is like a 1.5 or 2. But if I rate it as the movie that it set out to be, then it's a 4.5 for me, because I think that it's well done. It's some cheesy acting, but is a general role well acted with a stellar cast, and I like it. I like it from that aspect.
I figured you were going to give it the 1.5 or 2 because that's what you made in your pants the first time you watched it.
You're so funny. So funny. So funny. Scatological humor coming out from Dave.
That's. Did you just do the Jeopardy laugh?
I most certainly did.
Yes.
That's what you did in your pants, Trebek.
Oh my
That Saturday Night
gosh.
Live skit will never get old. Not in a million years.
Oh my.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of things
Well,
that
this
stand the
is
test of time.
this has been very fun, and I'll have to cue some spooky music in here, but this has been great. Just talking about what's been about Event Horizon, revisiting this movie, much to my chagrin and much to my sleep chagrin, and I'm glad that we watched it, and that I can now have cleaner shorts from here on out.
Except for next year when we make you watch a different horror movie. Because it's October.
Maybe.
Well, that's a
Maybe.
good
Something
like,
spectacular.
but that's a good question. Like, is there a subgenre of sci-fi that bridges horror like this one did? I don't know
Like-
of any other movies that really do this, unless you're going to count like Alien or Predator. things
Maybe
like
like the
I,
that.
cube, like the cube, maybe.
Okay.
I think
With the rooms that were kind of horror-esque. I don't know. I think there's some that kind of flip into it. This one definitely is a bit more like space opera type. Let's go fly to another planet and experience
Yeah.
horror, right?
yeah, sometimes it's hard to tell like where exactly a genre like stops and starts
Right.
because a lot of times I wouldn't like count most of those things as science fiction because I'm just like this is just an excuse to have a random monster jump out at you and they decided to make it
Right.
from space
Right.
as opposed
Right.
to from that's like more Lovecraftian horror like it's from space thing like I wouldn't count that as science fiction but this really felt science fiction because the horror came from us through science opening up a portal to probably shouldn't. And,
Right.
our understanding of what it is comes almost like this weird religious hell thing, but we don't actually know what it is. It could have just been some sort of weird microorganism making us all crazy.
Yeah. It's interesting too because this movie, as we said, did not do well at the box office. And maybe there's a reason we don't see a lot of these types of movies because people go to see science fiction as a general rule. We go to, vanquish an alien enemy. We go to see the best of ourselves, or the possibility, our hope, but we don't
Well,
go to have our pants cleaned at the cleaners every time. We just
Right.
don't. It's just not the reason I watch sci-fi. Certainly, I don't watch it and say, okay, I need a good scare tonight. Let me flip on the sci-fi channel. Although that might be scary in its own right for different reasons.
Yeah.
But I mean, we
get
just
that.
don't do that, right? We're looking. We're coming to science fiction with a slightly different motive than maybe this movie would intentionally
Right.
come.
Like I kind of put like
Yeah.
the movie Doom. Like, have you guys ever seen that one with The
Yeah, yeah,
Rock and
yeah.
Carl Urban?
But it was Carl
No.
Urban, great.
Yeah, that's a good one. I almost put that into this kind of same category. I mean, it's a little less gory and a little less horror-ish,
Right.
but it runs kind of the same like idea. I think that's
Yeah, I
the one I'm
kind of
thinking.
wonder how.
Would Alien kind of be in this
Well, that's what I
genre
mean.
a
Like
little bit?
Alien would fit this genre probably a lot better, just for the simple fact of all the suspense that
Right.
rolls through that movie. At least certainly the first one, because you don't really see the xenomorph that much, especially right away. People just mysteriously die brutally. Yeah.
We definitely could visit maybe next year. We'll have to visit Alien.
Yeah, we could.
Yes, that would be good.
I love that.
Yeah.
We
Been a
we
while
definitely
since I
should.
saw that.
See, I'm gonna start a new October tradition on this
Awesome.
podcast.
Hey,
We
I
we
think
bring
we should do one. We should do one for the 4th of July. We should do one for
well that I mean we can't do
Independence
Independence
Day, man.
Day
Come on.
every year.
yes.
I
Well,
mean,
no, you do it every other year because there's two Independence Day movies. So, you just
oh,
kind of
this
alternate back and forth.
That's right. Yeah.
obviously, but no. So it was good, and I liked the discussion, and yeah, I like seeing new and different things.
Yeah.
Even if this is actually not new, but different. It's different.
Right.
New to you.
It's new to me. Yes.
There we go. All right. Well, I believe that's about it. Anything else we need to say before we jet out of the show here?
We'll just have to figure out what we're doing. I guess it's next time we were just chatting about whatever's going on in our
Yeah. So,
worlds.
I think that we need to. So, I'm going to need to take a break till November because of the move, but I'll be ready to go in November again.
Awesome.
Okay, I am going to be in Michigan the first full week of November, FYI.
Oh, well, then let's record it then. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
No.
you
We
certainly
totally,
can. I'm just letting you know.
Well, we can do it the second week. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So
Second
we,
week in
we can
November.
yeah, second week in November maybe.
November
Um,
7th.
Yeah, let's do that. And
No,
we
I.
can begin to we can begin to think out
Oh,
too
wait a minute.
if we
Hold
want
on.
to
I
do
need
something
this.
Christmassy like Santa Claus versus the Martians or Conquers the Martians or whatever it is that we're going to watch as kind of Christmassy. we can maybe do something in December for that, early December.
Okay.
No, actually, could we do it October 31st? Because when I said like the first full week of November, I'm gone from November 3rd through November 10th. So I could
So
either do the 31st or the 14th.
okay, so can we? I might be able to do the 31st. Let's see where I'm at.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of stuff happening with closing down the property. You can't do the 31st.
That's Halloween, so that means I'll be with
Oh,
the
yeah.
kid trick or treating that night.
Oh, okay. So
All
then
right.
the 14th.
The 14th is fine.
Okay, 14th it will work.
Yeah.
All right.
If there is, I know we have some interviews we haven't shared all. We could maybe sometime at Miles, if you wanted to record a little bit of introduction for it, we could throw like a mini episode out in between.
Okay.
Yeah, do like the 17th or 24th. Throw something out.
All right, very good. Well, it's been great chatting. Let's take us out of the show here.
All right. Till next time. Good night and good luck.
We'll see ya.
Leave your tips on the table.
And go boldly to Sci-Fi Diner Podcast on YouTube. And don't forget, we are still waiting for that one lucky person to send that email to sci-fi diner podcast at gmail.com. Let us know you want those 2 autographed pictures, and we'll get them to you.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, wow, really?
And then I ran speed tests on it to make sure I was getting the speed I was paying for.
And you were.
Yeah,
We're
pretty
close.
close. I mean, it's hard. I mean, once you get like 700-800, gigs down, you're like, okay, this is I don't calculate it that closely.
Right.
But,
Cool.
but
Cool story.
yeah.
I just popped it at the very end.
Ooh.
There's the first bird.
He even had the fancy one because he had the pinky up a little bit, too, in it.
Yeah,
He
that was
did.
just that was accidental. I don't know why.
No, Scott, it's like this.
Yeah. Yes.
It was this in the 70s.
Yes. One moment. Hold on.
Yeah.
So where is your new place at?
Closer. So do you know where Millersville University is at?
Yeah.
So it's a mile from there. I literally live less than a mile from Dave's house.
Yeah.
So it's quite possible we might be recording together. We haven't talked about this yet. We'll see.
That's not a bad idea. Well, it's not a bad idea. On occasion.
But you can only stand so much of me, is what you're saying.
Well, no. I mean, it's a...
I'm just
I
kidding.
gotta think about that
No.
one. Oh, I gotta think about that one a little bit.
We'll
I
have to
used to
see.
do it
We'll
all
have to
the
see how
time.
it works out. Because sometimes you do. Yeah, I mean, the advantage of recording like we do is I'm the only person in this room. There's no bleed of audio or anything. Whereas if we were to record in the same room, unless we're intentionally trying to do like a round robin, which is fine,
Yeah.
it would just be a different setup. But
Right.
Yeah, I was really so I stupidly left my window open today, and so this room is really hot and it's still cooling down. So I changed into a spaghetti trap, and then I was like, David puts this on the internet. I don't think I want to be quite that risque.
Might get us some more views.
Revealing. Yeah.
I'll change back to the other one. Okay, hold
That's
on.
right. That's
Let me
right.
just get the girls out. We'll just
There's
act like that. No problem.
It's for the show.
Just,
Take one for the team there, Chrissy.
I should have done that when Twitch was just getting started, just because I could have just stuck it right there, and I would be rolling in the dough at this point. But sadly,
Then you just roll over to OnlyFans and you can quit your day job.
sometimes
It'll pay
with all
more.
the talk of the student loans coming back, the thought has occurred.
Yeah.
Don't think too
Girls
hard
gotta
at it.
make money.
See, if I get my girls out, it doesn't have quite the same effect.
No.
I was like, oh, our listeners dropped. No.
Oddly,
Yeah,
the
no.
certain demographic went sky high.
Weird, so strange. Yes, so I was like, oh, let me just switch shirts real fast.
Yeah. All right.
All right. You said you
Fantastic.
shared show notes, Miles?
I
Did you
did.
just call him Mike?
I'm gonna call him Mike for the rest of the show.
I just got a new employee that's named Mike, and I spent half the day Mike. So anything with an M.
So we now have a Jen and a Mike,
Jen and a Mike.
and we're just renaming everybody.
That's right.
Keep the show
Soon,
fresh.
soon you won't be able to tell.
All right.
Very good. Well, that was a good discussion. That was fun.
Yeah. It was good getting out of our comfort zone.
Yes. I will take your word for it that it was good. Coming from a professional psychologist.
It's good to try, get yourself out of your comfort zone, try new things, in a safe environment.
You'll have to talk to Kristen after she washes my shorts, just saying. Then see if that works.
So
I mean,
yeah, Jen. You got Jen. We got Mike, and now we got Skidmark Scott.
That's right. Skid Mark Scott.
I will say that people who expose themselves to like horror movies or like dangerous video games or things actually they have some studies backing up that those people are more able to handle like quote unquote scary, like anxiety inducing situations better
That would
because
surprise me.
their condition, their bodies are already conditioned to handle that like psychological stress. So it's actually almost like a form of inoculating yourself to being more resilient in day-to-day situations.
Yeah, I've seen studies like that before. We interviewed Miles. Were you a part of that when we interviewed some guy? Who did we do that? We interviewed some guy that had written a book about
Yes, so-
psychological. He'd written about this very thing about the psychology of horror movies.
See,
Yeah, and I
And-
asked him point blank. I said, why do people like horror movies? And he said that's actually a good question because it presents a situation where most people would definitely want to avoid, but at the same time we want to be entertained by watching it.
see,
Yeah.
as my grandparents always used to tell us, suffering's good for the soul. The older I get, the more I understand it.
Right.
Yeah.
When you see especially this whole nother conversation, but you see our current generation does everything to avoid suffering.
Yeah.
And it's
You
not,
know,
and the
it's-
ability to handle it is it becomes a bit tougher.
Because we've done such a noble job of trying to shield them from it, that you get a little bit of adversity in your life, and all of a sudden you have no idea how to handle it. Well, come on, Nancy, suck it up.
I will say that playing video games and pushing myself to play more difficult levels and stuff really did help build up some of that resilience. And what you guys don't know about me is when I was younger, I had a traumatic event happen to me. I ended up having some PTSD and a morbid anxiety disorder where I was having panic attacks. And part of, getting over it was like putting myself into almost like these anxiety inducing situations where I'm like, oh my God, my character's going to die. But I was perfectly safe in the situation. And the worst that happened was I lost my progress and had to start again. And so, it was really helpful. And even like things like, killing bugs when I was younger, I was like, oh my God, it's a spider. Now I'm just like, oh, a spider. I've slayed 5,000s of these and wow, smack with my shoe and move on with my life. Like, I mean, Dave's laughing, but like,
But
those
that's
things
it.
are really big in comparison to your character. Like, your
It
character's
is.
this big and the spider is this big. Like, and it's like jumping at you on your screen. And you're like, it's a spider. Like, it's at you. But like, it starts teaching your brain to like handle this stuff. So I'm not, that's why I'm not too into like gore, but I don't mind horror that scares me or things that like do that, because it does have that effect on your body. And then like it starts again, exposure therapy, like I said at the start, it helps you learn how to cope with that anxiety and those adversities, and to be able to handle that day-to-day stuff. And like you said, a lot of people have been so cocooned in this little safe world that they don't know how to handle it when it's no longer safe.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
So I guess you'll have to edit that in later, Scott.
I'm still recording.
I'm still, yeah.
You know,
this
I'm
goes
like,
on.
I'm not gonna. This is great stuff, and I'm not gonna like. You never know when this stuff happens. It's kind of like, this is just this natural conversation. So
Yeah.
I expose myself to stressful situations every Friday night when I spar somebody in kickboxing class, because usually I'm sparring against somebody of much better fighting abilities. So it's like, okay, can I survive this for the next 2 minutes?
Right. And in some ways, I mean, you also like that's also surviving in like a social humiliation, because you're doing it in front of other people and they're gonna know that this guy kicked your butt.
Yeah, I've had the pride beat out of me a long time ago. I'm not.
But that's
Whether I
it's
lose
it's
or
a
not.
good thing.
Yes.
It's a good thing to have that have happened, because now like you are no longer, a prisoner of that psychological phenomenon of I am afraid of being humiliated in front of these people, so I'm afraid to try. I'm afraid to then push myself to be in a situation where I then will be able to get better and improve, because a lot of people stop themselves because of failure, because they're afraid to fail, and they're especially afraid to fail in front of people. And to be able to do that and move forward with you, like that right there is a recipe of success.
Nothing breeds success better than a failure.
Exactly
How it is. I need to take up something
people
like
are
that,
so
Miles. Some
afraid
kind
to
of
fail.
Yeah, I got to take up some kind of martial arts or something like that, because that just sounds fun.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Now that
yeah,
I've lost all this
so-
weight, I'm a little more flexible.
true.
yeah. Like I didn't like performing by myself on my violin, because I didn't want people to hear if I made a mistake. So like, or again, like in a social game like World of Warcraft, you get in with a group and like you fail as a healer or a tank, they're mean.
Yeah.
Try playing Call of Duty. Oh.
League of Legends is infamous for how toxic its community is
I was
for
just gonna
that.
say, yeah.
But in some ways, as toxic as I'm not saying the toxic behavior is okay. I'm not saying that. However, it is good for you to learn how to like be like, okay, these people are gonna say whatever they're gonna say and they're gonna think whatever they're gonna think. And I'm just gonna pick myself back up and keep on moving.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. All right. Well, I do need to get going, guys.
Yes,
all right,
sir.
there are boxes, I guess, that need to go into your room.
I don't even know. I don't even want to know. All right. I will catch you guys later.
Later on.
Bye.